Hey everyone, good morning. Wednesday morning, here we are again to have a look at our maths this morning. We are going to start with our mental maths questions. We've got 4 questions on the screen here, plus the clock face. So in a moment, pause the video, give yourself around 30 seconds and try and see if you can answer as many of the questions on the screen as you can. We'll come back together in a second and we will have a look at the answers. Pause the video now. Question number 1, round 7.18 to the nearest whole number. We looked at this yesterday. If I am round to the nearest whole number, I am looking at the column 1 to the right of the decimal point, the 1 to the right being the tenths column. If it's 4 or less, you round it down to the previous whole number. If it's 5 or more, you round it up. In this case, it's 7.18. So the 1 is telling me to round it down, so I am closer to 7 than I am to 8. Question 2, write 0.07 as a fraction. The 7 is in the hundredths column, so it's 7 over 100. Question 3, bit of a tricky one, this one. It's finding the sum, so it's adding all the values that you've got in front of you up and giving total of them. That's what sum means, finding the final answer, the total amount. 1/3, 1/5, and 1/6. Now, because 5 isn't a factor of 6, I can't just merely use 6 as my common denominator, which we practiced a couple of lessons ago. You've got to try and think of a way of finding a common denominator between these 3 fractions. You may have, the best way of doing this is always to write out the multiples. So write your multiples of 3, multiples of 5, multiples of 6, until you find a multiple in those times tables that appear in each of the 3 times tables. So write your 3's out, your 5's, your 6's. If you did that, you will have found that the first common denominator in all of these was 30. So your common denominator, when you're adding all these up, is going to be 30. Bring out space a little bit. I'll have to put the answer over here when I'm done. So how do I get from 3 to 30? I times it by 10. So I times the numerator by 10. 1 times 10 is 10. How do I get from 5 to 30? I times it by 6. I do the same on my numerator. 1 times 6 is 6. And then how do I get from 6 to 30? I times that by 5. Times my numerator by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Add up my total then. 10 add 6 is 16. Add on my 5 is 21 over 100. Don't worry if you didn't quite get that one. That was quite a tricky one for adding fractions. We are going to do a bit more practice when we're back in school at finding the common denominator using the multiples method of writing them out for each denominator. What's the mathematical name for the shape? It's a 5-sided shape. It's a pentagon. The time on the clock is 5:26, or 26 minutes past 5. Let's get into today's lesson then. The top, order and compare decimals. Let's get a place value grid up and let's start thinking about ordering and comparing numbers. I'm actually going to start with a positive number this morning. I'm going to start with 26. I'm going to put my counters in to represent my number, like so. So as I've just said, this is a place value grid showing a positive number. It's showing a number, a 2-digit number, with a value in the tens column and a value in the ones column. Because the tens have a value greater than the ones, any number in the tens column will have a greater value than any number in the ones column. So I have less counters here than I do here, but the value of these 2 counters together is greater than these ones here. So 2 10 counters are of greater value than the 6 1 counters. So the position of a digit on a place value grid determines its value. Let's have a look at a second number. This time I am going to have a look at a decimal number. Let's have a look at the decimal 2.6. Again, I'm going to put my my counters in. This time I'm using tenths in this column because that's the value I'm looking at. And I've got 6 in there. So again, 2.6, the two 1 counters have a greater value than all of these 6 counters together. 2 1s is greater than 6 tenths. The 1s column is of greater value. So when I'm looking at ordering and comparing numbers, I'm always looking at the greatest value column. Let's have a look at a few different numbers then. So let's have a look at a big place value grid. I'm going to write in some numbers at the side here. Let's have a look at the number 10.21. Let's have a look at 8.68 and the number 8.59. Oops. 8.59. I apologise, some of my numbers are a little bit higgledy-piggledy this morning. There we are. So if I was going to represent them on a place value grid, so 10.21, I have 1 10, I have 0 1s, I have 2 tenths, and I have 100. I've used partitioning to work out the value of each of my digits. The second one, I've got 8.68. So let's pull in my my counters. It's going to be a bit of a tight squeeze, but it's fine. 2, 4, 6. 8. So I've got 8 in my 1s column. I've got 6 tenths. Should be able to fit these in. 2, 4, 6. And I've got 8 hundredths. Now, come on, come on, come on. There we are. Now, it would appear this time that I've got many more counters than I did previously. However, 8.68 has a lower value than 10.21 because I do not have any 10s in my 10s column. Yes, I have many more counters, but these do not hold a greater value than anything that would go in this column here. The further to the left I'm going on my place value grid, the higher the value column. So more counters does not necessarily mean that the number is bigger. And then finally, let's have a look at 8.59. So we'll get another 8 up. I'll steal them from there. Let's move them down a little bit. There we are. 8.5. So that's 2, 4, 5. I'm going to try and get 9 in here, but let's move these up and out of the way a little. Oh dear. We should have had a bigger place value grid, I think. There we are. 8.59. This time I have the same number of 1s as I did previously. I actually have more hundredths this time than I did previously, but I have fewer 10s. So 8.59 has a value less than the number 8.68 because the highest value column is the 1s and they are the same. The second highest column has a value less than the number we looked at a minute ago because I've got 1 less counter in my tenths than I did previously. So 8.59 is less than 8.68. Those first few examples will help you with questions 1 and 2 today on your worksheet. So when you get onto the worksheets in a moment, those few examples will help you with the first few questions. Let's have a look at further on the worksheet then. To compare the value of two numbers, we should always look at the place value of each of the digits in the grid. If I didn't have a grid, however, I've still got to picture that place value grid in my head. So if I have the number 3.56 and I have the number 3.46, I've got to try and picture and imagine those place value counts if I can, or then place value headers, so ones, tenths, hundredths. And remember what I've said, you're always looking at the highest value column. In this case, it's the ones column. Can I compare them by purely looking at the ones column? I can't, because they both have the same value in the ones column. So when the highest value column is the same, you always have to look one to the right of that column. If I look one to the right in the tenths column, I have a 5 in the tenths column for this number, and I have a 4 in the tenths column for that number. So I'm actually going to use the greater than symbol, because 3.56 is greater than 3.47. 5 tenths is of greater value than 4 tenths. If I look at the number 35.6, and I look at the number 3.56, am I going to use a greater than, or am I going to use a less than? Yep, that's correct. I'm going to use the greater than symbol. Why am I using the greater than symbol? Because in this number, the highest value column is the tens column. I actually have a value in the tens column this time for this number. Do I have anything in the tens column here? No, I don't. The 5 in this number is in the ones column, and the 3 is in the number in this column. But I'm always looking at the highest place value column to compare the two numbers. So I'll be using greater than again. Finally, let's have a look at 6.98. And we'll compare that number to 7.01. Greater than or less than this time, do you think? Looking at the highest place value column, which in this case is the ones again. I've got 6 ones here and I've got 7 ones there. 6 is less than 7, so I'll be using the less than symbol. Always looking at the highest place column. That will help you with question 3 today. So when you get onto your work this morning, that will help you with question 3. Always picturing that place value grid. If you want to draw yourself a little place value grid out on a scrap piece of paper or something that you've got there to write on, by all means do that, and then you can write the numbers in if you need those place value headers above. Let's have a look at another place value grid. This time I'm just going to use digits. I'm not going to put the counts in like I did a few moments ago. So I'm going to have a go at writing some numbers in. I'm going to have 76.3. I'm going to have 35.03. And I'm going to have 76.41. I'm going to try and put these in order. I want to start with the smallest number. You always start, as I've kept saying for the last few moments, with the highest value column. So by beginning to look at the tens column, the number with the fewest tens in this column is 35.03. This is the smallest number, because these two both have a 7. The 3 is in here. 3 tens is less than 7 tens, so the smallest number would be the middle value. The other numbers, both of them, both have 7 tens in them, as I've just said there. So we need to look at the next column to the right. They have the same number of ones, however, these two numbers. So I still can't compare them and put them in order accurately. So start with the highest value. If that doesn't help you, go to the next highest. If that still doesn't help you, as it doesn't in this example here, we need to look at the tenths column. I can see that this time there is a difference. This one's got 3 tenths, this one's got 4 tenths. 3 tenths is less than 4 tenths. So the order of my three numbers, starting with the smallest, would be 35.03, 76.3, and then finally 76.41. Order a few more, 4 more numbers we're going to order, and then we're going to make a start. If you get a list of numbers, so for example, let's have a look at 5.4, let's have a go at 5.5, 5.33, 5.44. If you ever get a list of numbers that you have to put in order, write them out one under the other so you've got all of the place value, all the numbers in an order, in a line, in a list almost. So you've got all the ones written underneath each other, you've got all the tenths written underneath each other, and that will help you. You won't miss any out, and you won't make, hopefully, any silly mistakes. If I'm starting with the smallest number, again, look at the highest value column. I can't help, that doesn't help me because I've got 5 in each of my ones columns. So I look the one to the right. I'm looking for the smallest, remember? I've got 4 tenths, 5 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths. Brilliant. So I've got this one. I can tick this one off and I can write it in my new list because I know that is the smallest number I have in my selection. I also know I've got 2 more with 4 in the tenths column, and I've got 1 more with 5 in the tenths column. So I know that my 5.5 will be my greatest value. Again, I'll tick it off so I know that I'm not forgetting it, and I know that it's been sorted. That leaves me with 5.4 and 5.44. If you, again, like we said previously, have a column where 2 numbers are both of the same value, you always look to the one to the right of that. If I look to the one to the right of the tenths column, I'm now in the hundredths column. I don't have any hundredths here, so 5.4 is the same as 5.40. I do have hundredths here, I have 4 hundredths. So I'm looking for the smallest value first. I put my 5.4 or my 5.40, doesn't matter. Then I've got my 5.44. So starting with the smallest, or putting the numbers in ascending order, smallest to biggest, this would be my correct order. There we are. So today, comparing and ordering. Have a go at the questions on the worksheet. You've got some with place value grids. You've got some where you've got to imagine the place value grids, and you've got some lists of numbers that you've got to put in the correct order. Give it a go. Email in, and I'll see you again tomorrow.